We're not the suits that talk football. We're the dudes that know football. And you've just crossed over into the trend zone. Dave here with Casey. We are the football dudes. Are you ready, brother?
I am ready, sir.
You've just crossed over into the trend zone. It is Wednesday, October 15th, coming at you from Los Angeles, California. And it is a absolutely slightly chilly, I guess, 62 degrees here on the west side. What you got, Case?
61 in the Sherm, baby. Just a little bit cooler. In your face, West Side.
It was actually raining in California today. That's right. All right, folks. In today's episode, we'll talk about the NFL reigning king, the crash of the Titans, no olive branch between the Lions and the Chiefs, a little survivor, a little fantasy go backs to the week, and of course, all of the awesome games coming up this week in the NFL. But we cannot get a trip into the trend zone going, Casey, without a tasty nug for the people. Please say you're carrying a nug.
Oh, yeah, baby. You know I'm holding. Dave, guess what? Me and 27,299,999,000 of my friends were doing on Sunday night.
I can't possibly imagine.
We were watching that Lions-Chiefs game. And, dude, what else can you say about the NFL? They are increasing their numbers all the time. Sunday Night Football used to be a throwaway. Remember when they just give us a crappy game? Now it is the premier game of the week. Exceeded 25 million viewers for the fourth time this year, Dave.
Wow.
That's the most through 6 weeks in Sunday Night Football history. Last year, 4 games exceeded 25 million. We're already hitting that benchmark through week 6, and we probably have a pretty tasty game on Sunday. I guess the people have to wait till we get to the game previews to make sure, but
but Casey, the baseball playoffs have had to have put a dent into the viewers.
Oh, Dave, the baseball numbers are increased from their previous marks too. That Mariners Blue Jays series averaged 5.31 million viewers. That is up 32% from the game last year between the Guardians and the Yankees. Maybe because nobody knows who the Guardians are outside the baseball world. But, and if you throw in another 4.7, buddy, up in Canada, ALCS surpassed 10 million. That's pretty good, but that's not what it's all about, Dave.
That's not what it's about, man. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, NFL dominating more than 2.5 times the viewers as playoff baseball in a head-to-head battle on Sunday night.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, TrendZone available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. Go ahead and subscribe now and like. We appreciate that.
Hey, Dave, does that cost the peoples anything?
Dude, it is FOC, free of charge.
Come on, get out there, do it, people.
All right, that's how I like it. Free. All right, folks, let's move it on to the top trending stories. Folks, we were talking about having the hot seat section last week. Casey, I said, is it too soon? He said, well, let's say it. Oh, yeah. This was the guy on the hot seat, Casey. Let's talk about this Titans situation.
Yeah, the seat is no longer hot. The Titans fired Brian Callahan. Management has seen enough after the 2010 loss to the Raiders. After which Jeffrey Simmons said the team had one of the worst weeks of practice. Not what you like to see coming off that huge Cardinals win. And it might have come, before then. They got beat 26-0 to the Texans. Got a little reprieve from the football gods there, and then got a reprieve from losing to the Cardinals due to some insanity. But Titans brass had seen enough. But Dave, what the hell is going on with these guys? They ran Carthon out of there, who looked like he might have been getting it in order. This is a rudderless ship right now. They fire Vrabel to bring in this cat.
Yeah.
And then 23 games into the tenure, bye-bye.
Yeah, I thought it was an ill-advised fire by ownership to get rid of Vrabel. It just seemed like change for no reason at all. I know there was the actual ownership kind of changed from the whoever was in charge was a newer person. I think the heir to the team, and bad decision making. It's as simple as that.
What is Vrabel? Oh yeah, he's got his Patriots in first place in the AFC East, but that's beside the point. The Titans are going to name Mike McCoy the interim head coach. They also lost their offensive quarter or offensive line coach too, Bill Callahan. He's like, hey, my son's not good enough for the Titans. Neither am I. So, dude, I don't know what the hell is going on there. Maybe for some other teams, they can maybe pillage some of these good Titan players with big contracts to help make playoff runs, because it's a full reset for these guys. I know they have the quarterback in place, but other than that,
Yeah.
I don't know
I
anything
mean, if you look ahead
happening
and
with
think,
them.
well, how could this turn out okay? The Bears had that high pick and also had the quarterback in place, and were able to parlay that into a real bounty. The next quarterback draft does look good
Yeah.
at this point in time. So even though if they end up with the first pick, maybe they can make that happen into a bunch of picks, and that could be the foundation for whoever the next coach is there.
Yeah, I don't think McCoy is going to be the long-term answer there, but if he can get Cam Ward playing at a high level, then
Yeah.
maybe he can throw his name into the ring. But I
Yeah.
think it's probably start fresh.
Yeah, he's got an audition, and if, like you said, if he can do some special stuff there, then yeah, obviously he'll be able to throw his hat in there. But um, it's likely that they're getting a head start on teams like the Jets and then maybe a couple others. We always know 5, 6, 7 opportunities come for new head coaches every year. Now we know this is one of them, and like you said, quarterback in position, a good-looking young quarterback
Yeah,
is also an attractive feature.
big time.
All right, Casey. There was a little bit of crazy activity towards the end of that Lions Chief game, and it resulted in some bad situations.
Yeah, one bad thing about 27.3 million viewers watching your game is they were hanging around to see the fisticuffs between
Right.
Brian Branch and Juju Smith-Schuster. He's been suspended for a game without pay. The suspension has been upheld. Um, and on the outside, it looks like Branch was the aggressor. He did take it to the next level,
Right.
socking Juju Smith-Schuster. But if you go back and look at the hit that Smith-Schuster put on Branch, cheap shot right in the back. Guess what? Right in front of the Zebras, who turned a blind eye to it. And when Mahomes ran his touchdown in, did all this, flexed, pointed at Branch. Guess what? You can point when you're a Chief and you don't get a taunting penalty. Anybody else, they throw the flag at you. That's not the case. Branch had enough. I get it. I'm not justifying the hit, but when a cheap shot comes, you get what you give, bro. So,
Yeah.
and
You
I
can't
know
argue with his retribution, his
no,
desire to at least balance the scales a little bit, because the refs certainly didn't look out for him in that circumstance.
absolutely not. And right after the game, Dan Campbell apologized, but there's a little piece of him somewhere and say, you know what? We're going to rally around you because you do that to one of ours. We get one of yours too. It was after the game. They had already lost the game, so it didn't cost them. Now he's going to miss a huge game coming up. But um, also, the ironic thing here is John Runyon is the NFL VP of football operations. That guy was one of the dirtiest SOPs in the history of the
Yeah,
game.
he was.
So he'll take us fine. He'll miss his game. And unfortunately, like I said, it's a huge matchup with Tampa Bay in week 7 that we'll get to in just a little bit.
All right, Casey, moving on. So, in this year's draft, there was some real crazy maneuvering up at the top end to acquire a special uh, rookie player here that plays on both sides of the football, Travis Hunter. Um, at this point, it is still an unrealized situation. But what do you got on Travis?
Well, he's on pace for about 400 receiving yards, and he played about 40% of the defensive snaps. 59 snaps on offense, 22 on defense, 78%. So that's getting there. But Dave,
Yeah,
you had all that draft capital because you're going to get a special player. Let this dude be special.
yeah.
It was polarizing what they gave up to get him. But if you are going to spend that, let's see the dude play.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And he is getting out there. They don't want to wear him out. It is the NFL. The dudes are bigger. He's not a huge guy. But, you know, when the trade happened, I was shocked myself. Not anything about the player, but the actual draft capital given up to acquire said player. They gave up the first round pick, the second round pick, which was a super high second rounder,
Mhm.
and next year's number one. When I saw those, that was the trade, and it wasn't a quarterback on the other end of the deal. I was blown away at what they paid for him. And I knew, in my opinion, at that point, that it was a mistake. I would rather have the three players that could have been had with the first and second round pick and next year's number one pick than the one player, especially when one player gets hurt. He's now not available. The other way, you have three players. Yes, there's three salaries, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I just think I thought it was way overpaying, but that's just me. We'll see how the whole thing turns out.
Yeah.
I am a fan because I think he's doing something cool and special, but um, maybe they need to get him focused on one side or the other where he can make a bigger impact, where we can see it and say, "Oh wow, look at that guy," and be, I don't know, excited, more excited. It's just,
Yeah, you got to let him get out there and cook. Unfortunately, he
yeah.
got called for lining up off sides,
Oops.
which negated a touchdown in a game they ended up losing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but definitely a special player. We need to see more of him, and time will tell
Yeah,
who
and
let the
maybe
bitter end of
he's
that.
in all the meetings and all that stuff, but maybe there's too much on his plate, and that's why you line up off sides because that's just an attention to detail foul there.
Yeah.
All right, let's move it on, Casey. Total fantasy domination. What is the fantasy situation?
Patty Mahomes, baby, for the Purple Sabbath.
Yep.
257 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 32 rush yards, and a rush touchdown. And I've had this jerk last year, and he didn't do shit for me all year. Now I make the switch to go get Josh Allen, and Mahomes is up to his
His old.
old ways.
I'll tell you, Casey, you did the right thing getting out from the chief quarterback there,
Mhm.
the Kelsey and Mahomes connection that you've had the last couple of years. It did you well, but I think it was time to get off. Let's move it on, Casey, to a dude that was one of your guys, Casey, right on the Cowboys. No longer there. He was in his revenge game for the Carolina Panthers. We're talking running back Rico Dowdle of the Purple Sabbath, also and the Carolina Panthers. 183 rush yards, 56 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. Guy has lit it up 2 straight weeks, man, and he is producing the numbers now that he's kind of the number one back there.
Yeah, dude, it's kind of easy to do that when you're not getting touched for the first 5 or 6 yards. Oh my God, it was brutal last
Yeah.
week. But what helped a little bit in that game was George Pickens for your lightning strikes and my Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
168 receiving yards and a touchdown, but he needed more yards and one more touchdown in the game. Oh,
And at tight end, Casey, a guy I targeted in the draft, acquired in the draft, and then got injured and missed week 2, and I had to cut him. I decided to cut him. It's Dallas Goddard. He was, of course, for the Eagles, and the Ogre Never Algos, who is the Eagle fan, pounced on him as soon as I was let him go. I was hoping I could get him back the next week. He's one of the top tight ends, 110 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown for Go Dirt. And I'll tell you what, he's again fantasy wise, he's like 2 or 3 right now in the league. So, wow, I'm kind of
getting
regretting
it
that.
done. Yeah, you should. Yeah.
Regretting letting him go. Speaking of regrets, Casey, the fantasy go backs of the week. This is the segment where we talk about what we could have done the last week in fantasy to have improved our situation. Would you have been able to get a W? Would you have been able to finish in the top 3 where the money is last week?
Dave, I have no regrets because Po Buddy's nerfed. But the Green Bud Packers rolled me up and smoked my Foul Boys to the tune of 148.44 points to just my 86.5. A big reason
Woo!
why is my receivers combined Calvin Ridley, Roma Dunze, and Marvin Harrison Jr., all for just over 8 points. But I had no help on my bench because my guys are either on IR or hurt, and I had to stack my team to make week 7 available for me. So if I could go back in time, I would draft a different team. It looked good on paper, but so far I'm riding a 4-game losing streak.
Yeah, imagine that. So I could have put in Cup and Higgins over Devontae Adams and Keenan Allen. That would have given me 9.6 more points, but still would have gotten me nowhere near the top 3 because there were some crazy ass scores this week. All first top 3 were all in the 140s. Mine was 106, so I could have given a little bit of help there, but I did put together a W in this, my fifth straight since going down to your Foul Boys in week one. Up next, on a side note, I will be going against those Greenbud Packers that crushed you last week. They are 6-0, I believe the only undefeated team in our fantasy league. I am sitting at 5-1. So we are first and second place in the league, and it's time to beat the Greenbud Packers in Kazalu.
Yeah, you got to smoke those guys. I guess I'm probably actually rooting for the Cause because we're in the same division and I
Oh,
need
that's right.
something to jumpstart my season so far. It's been crap. But in my other league, I did beat the Greenbud Packers other franchise. So we did get the nice split there. But so far, dude, my fantasy woes are foul.
Nobody cares about your other league, Casey.
Almost nobody cares about this league
I
for
know.
me either. Oh, brutal.
All right, moving it along to the Survivor slash Three Strikes. And of course, we have three strikes in our league. But last week's most popular correct pick was.
The Packers over the Bengals.
Ooh, yes, that was almost 43% of the people out there. And last week's most popular incorrect pick
Was the Eagles over the Giants, but Dave, I chose the Eagles to curse
cursed them.
them, and it worked. So I'm taking credit for that one, and I'll take the L on that.
Yeah, that was over 14% of the people taking a strike on that one. Next week, we have a couple of good picks for the people to consider.
Yeah, 45% of the country like Kansas City over the Raiders, over 22% like the Patriots over the Titans, and coming in at just over 12%, people like the Bears over the Hoodats.
Yeah, all right. So good choices there, depending on who you've got left. All right, Casey, stop all the nonsense in the fantasy and all this garbage. Let's get on to the real stuff, Casey.
Yes.
This is the game previews, the actual NFL action. Let's get right into the good stuff here. This week on by Baltimore and Buffalo. So some potential playoff teams, although obviously, uh, uh, you know, considering the Ravens this year and the Buffalo Bills actually on a 2-game
Mhm.
losing streak. So nonetheless, they're going to have an opportunity to get things righted in this bye week for them. But it is go time for the other 30 teams, Casey. It is week 7 of the NFL, baby. How about that?
Wait. What did you say?
Yeah, week 7 NFL action coming at you.
Week 7?
Yes, sir. Week
It's slipping away.
7. It certainly is. It is moving right along, and it's going to move right along on Thursday night football. We got a decent football matchup there.
Oh,
Divisional.
yeah. They're drinking it up. It is the Pittsburgh Steelers at 4-1 at the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals come in at 2-4, Dave, and Pittsburgh is 5.5-point favorites in this game.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh right now at 4-1 is kind of a sneaky good AFC team that I don't think people are talking about. They got the quarterback position that it's been a couple of years that they've been looking for just stability. And Rodgers is playing some good football. 115 quarterback rating last week, 235 yards passing and 2 touchdowns there. Um, they got a couple of running backs there in Johnson and Warren putting some stuff together, and also Kenneth Gainwell. So a little bit of a decent run game there, a strong defense. This Steelers team kind of it's almost like they're going to win this division by default, the way the other teams are playing. So look out for them to get themselves positioned for a nice playoff run.
Yeah, and Cincy, they're having quarterback woes, so they go in their division and pull Joe Flacco from the Cleveland Browns, and he actually did pretty decent last week. He had the Bengals hanging tough with the Packers. They ended up going down 27-18, and they're just hoping that Flacco can keep it going until Joe Burrow, if and when Joe Burrow gets back. 29-45, 219, not great, but 2 touchdowns, but no interceptions. And the interceptions is really what's been killing the Bengals all year. That's why they made the move. Found Chase Brown for 10-94 and a touchdown after the Packers were kind of mocking him, doing the little gritty. But Dave, no run game for these Bengals, man.
Yeah.
Like 60 yards total between Brown, P. Ryan, and Chase got in and around there too. So they got to sort that crap out. without a run game. It is going to be tough sledding against these Pittsburgh Steelers. Also, fun fact, Dave, Aaron Rodgers needs just 116 passing yards to pass Big Ben Roethlisberger on the all-time
Wow.
yardage list.
Yeah, I think he probably gets that this weekend. That Bengals defense, not all that tough of a defense to pick up yards on. On this other side, though, Flacco did find Higgins, my guy. That was the best game for Higgins all season. So maybe he can get those weapons going a little bit as he gets himself acclimated in there. He wasn't there very long. Let's see
No.
if he can pick up some steam.
Also,
Okay.
Dave, I'm going to tell you, do the opposite of what your instinct is for who you start this week, receiver wise, because each week on our
Yeah,
go backs, it's you're starting the wrong
I'm
guys.
always
So
starting the wrong
yeah,
dudes. Yeah.
Costanza that shit.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, folks, we are moving on to the early slot. Is this one in London, Casey, or I can't recall?
It is, isn't it? Wasn't it? Isn't
Yeah,
it?
right. All right. Maybe
Totally
I
good.
don't know if we're still at Hotspurs for this one here, but it is the Los Angeles Rams sitting at 4-2, and they'll be going to play the Jacksonville Jaguars across the pond there. The Rams are going to be favored in this one by 3.
Yeah, dude. And the Rams, they did beat the Ravens 17-3 last week, but we expected that to be more of a blowout.
Yeah,
And this game was
very
really
close.
close until late in that thing. Puka Nakua got a little hurt. I don't know that flying across the pond and the elevation doing all that stuff is going to help or hurt him. He's such a warrior, dude. He'll be out there
Yeah.
if at all possible. So hopefully Devontae Adams can pick up the slack for that. Corum got a little banged up in this one too, but it's not too far off. But they're not running the ball great. Kyron Williams only 50 yards rushing last week, but had the huge catch to kind of put the go-ahead score that kind of put that game away last week. But this Rams team plays pretty good defense. If they can get
Yes.
through this thing, beat the Jags, I think they go on bye after this. So this should be a pretty entertaining game, but very important to both of these squads, and maybe
Yeah.
even more important to the Jags after they beat the Chefs and then drop one at home, which I'm sure you're
Yeah.
about to talk about.
No doubt. So they were on top of the world, having beaten the Chiefs there on prime time last week. Fell short hosting the Seahawks, and there's a lot of mystery to this Jaguars team right now for me, as obviously the new coach is trying to sort of balance things out. They're sitting at 4-2. They could emerge as a real challenge here in the AFC, as a real decent playoff caliber squad here.
Duval.
Yeah, there you go. They got to get Lawrence to play consistently
Yeah.
good ball, right? And they did not last week in the loss get a ground game going at all. Travis Etienne, 27 rush yards, Tootin 14, Trevor Lawrence 9 more. I mean, that is no running the football. And they got some great weapons there. Obviously, we talked about Travis Hunter earlier, but Brian Thomas Jr. And Parker Washington there. Some good receivers to work with. But yeah, they just got to play consistently. They were the team at 4-2 that was like +9 or 10 on the turnover ratio early, and turnovers are like you know you know they don't just keep coming at you, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-mm.
They tend to kind of regress to the mean. So maybe they've been living large on those turnovers. We'll see. This is going to be a tough battle, though. This Rams team is battle tested and they're good to go.
Yeah, and watch for my guy Jordan Lewis playing lights out for these Jags. We couldn't find money for him because we were trying to sign Micah. Micah leaves. In hindsight, we should have kept Jordan Lewis because he is balling out and he might get one of them picks off of Matt Stafford. All right, Dave, bring it on back to the good old US of A. And it is the New Orleans Saints at the Chicago Bears there. And the Bears are 5-point favorites in this game, Dave, the Dennis Allen revenge game.
Yes, it is. How about the Saints there? They got one win on the season. We knew this was going to be a tough one for them when Derek Carr retired, blah, blah, blah. And here they are sitting at 1-5. It is a tough situation for the Saints. And, we'll see if they can kind of get it going. Rattler did have a decent game last week. But, Kamara and Keandre Miller, about 50 yards rushing. So again, you need more balance there if they're going to have any chance at getting it going here. And then you look at the Bears on the other side of the equation. They got the W last week, and it felt like they were losing the game the whole freaking time. And then the Commanders just spit up the ball right at the end. If you let an NFL team hang around, and then you give them a freebie at the end, they're going to beat you. That's the NFL. So the Bears coming off a pretty nice victory there, but they're not apologizing for having that lucky turnover right at the end of that
Mm-hmm.
game. And you don't, you get they're
You don't
sitting at three and
apologize
two.
for wins in the
Nope.
NFL either. It doesn't matter who you beat, how you do it. A
Yeah.
win is a win.
And even if the Saints aren't a great football team, who cares? They're all NFL football teams. And so here comes the Bears. It's going to be, you know, at home. They just got to play good football, and they'll be in good shape in this one.
Yeah, and when they were successful in that Washington game, Caleb, we talked about getting the ball out quickly.
Yes.
Ben Johnson will mold Caleb to what he has to be to fit the system, and if he does that, it's going to work well for him.
Yeah, and they got a 100-yard rusher, last week. So they need to keep that ground game going. Swift has got to be productive. He had also 67 receiving yards, so like 175 yards for Swift. That's the kind of production. If you get that, then they're going to be in the W column this week.
Yep.
All right, up next we have got the Miami Dolphins, and they are going to Cleveland to play the Browns. Dolphins are 1-5 in this one. The Cleveland Browns are 1-5 in this one. The Browns at home are favored by 2.5. Wow.
Yeah, and the Dolphins were about 20 seconds away from being 2-4 instead of 1-5. I'm sure you'll
Yes, they
talk about
were.
that soon, but the vibes are all bad there.
Yeah.
And if McDaniel doesn't watch out, he's going to be vacationing with Bill Callahan sooner than later, man. I think tensions are high in Miami. Lots of the stuff you hear coming out are not good. Tua saying cats are coming into meetings late, not showing up, not doing things. It feels like McDaniel has lost control of this team. And then
Yeah.
you flip it over to the Browns. Mike Tomlin had a head scratch thinking, you traded your quarterback in your division. Does that mean you're giving up on the year? Dylan Gabriel was decent last week. He wasn't great, missed some stuff. Also didn't get a lot of help out of the run game or from his receivers. But Dave, 52 pass attempts is too much for a rookie quarterback. What the hell are we doing here? And
Yeah.
Judkins had a good week 2 weeks ago. Last week, 12 for 36. It's
Mm.
not getting it done. Fannin Jr., that's kind of the bright spot of this offense, but they got to get Jerry Jeudy going, and the defense just has to be better. They kind of held them in there, but the offense has to start producing, and before long, maybe to no fault of Dylan Gabriel, we're going to see Shedeur Sanders, but Cleveland's already moving on to next year. They got to know what they have in one of those two quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think they're going to stick with Gabriel for a little while longer. The lefty's got to get an opportunity to really get a chance. And when you don't get anything out of Judkins, then that's like you said, too many passes. As simple as
Yeah.
that. Too many passes.
All right. Up next, it is the Philadelphia Eagles at the Minnesota Vikings, and the Eagles are just a point favorite in this one.
Yes, sir. And how about those Eagles sitting at 4-2, and everybody wants to know what's wrong with the Eagles. Why?
They suck.
I mean, what's wrong with the Eagles there? Well, they're 4-2. First of all, they're finding their way. Like we expect them to be the Super Bowl team that demolished the Chiefs. Oh, so delightful. But I digress. They are, struggling a little bit offensively last week. Only 58 rush yards for Barkley. They did have a great game out of Goddard, right? Who got 110 yards and a touchdown there. Receiving football at the tight end position, still kind of getting the receivers going there, with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith combining for about 130 yards. So not a lot going on there. Just seems like the offense is just kind of misfiring for this squad right now. And they're heading to Minnesota, and this Minnesota defense, it can really cause some trouble. So we shall see if the Eagles can kind of run the ball and get things going, and then selectively pass the football and take over this game, or if that defense for the Vikings has something to say about it.
Yeah, and the Vikings 2 weeks ago, they beat the Browns in London. They fly back. They had the bye week. Looks like it's going to be Carson Wentz at least for another week. JJ McCarthy is trending in the right direction, but he's not quite ready yet. Um, and they're probably not going to have the running back yet either there, but with Aaron Jones, maybe top 5 running back, depends who you ask. That was a while ago. I'm just kidding. It's a throwback to cause there. But Mason's been okay without there.
Yeah, I've
Justin
liked him.
Jefferson and Jordan Addison, they are heating it up, getting it going here. This would be a huge win for the Vikings.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the Brian Flores defense. Maybe they're playing well enough to smack the defending world champs at home. So this is a big game for actually a big game for both franchises,
No doubt.
but jockeying
Oh,
for NFC playoff position because the Vikings at this point are probably a wild card or hopefully, and the Eagles just a game ahead of the Commandos. So it's getting tight. And another Eagles loss is that locker room gonna implode. Is the leadership in there enough to right the ship? We've seen this in the past. So important game, Dave, is what I'm getting at. Important game.
big game, no doubt. Okay, up next, it is the Las Vegas Raiders at Kansas City to play the Chiefs in one of the 2 games each year that I am a Raider fan. Go Raiders. Okay, what do you got, Casey, on the Raiders?
Yeah, the Raiders, they beat the Titans last week and got Callahan on vacation. That was 20-10, but
Yeah,
they gave Gino that big contract. And so far, it's not been great, man. He's been way too giving with the football. Only 1 interception last week, but less than 200 yards passing.
mm,
And Genty 23 for 75, which is not bad, but you got this guy with the second pick. You got to use him as the workhorse there. And then the tight end, Bowers, has just not been able to get
yeah,
right this year so far. He's been in and out of lineup with injuries. So Michael Mayer's been okay
yeah.
when he's had opportunity, but you expected greatness out of that position, which you got flashes of last year. So get Bowers healthy, get Gino to quit turning the ball over. The defense is okay. They can make some splash plays, but overall, if they're going to go anywhere, Gino's got to play better, or the Raiders are looking for a quarterback next year.
No doubt
And
about
Dave,
it.
I see that minus 12. Is that the Chiefs? How many penalties that the refs are not going to call on them?
Yeah, minus 12. Yeah, the Chiefs. I'll tell you. So last week, of course, Casey's reference, the Chiefs were not penalized one single time, even though their left tackle is literally lines up in a penalty practically every play and false starts practically every play. And then, as people say, historically speaking, you can call a hold on any play you like, right? Somehow, the Chiefs ended up completely clean as a whistle there. Refs loving the Chiefs. What can you say? I'm pretty sure Taylor Swift was in the audience, Casey, and they just didn't want to piss her off.
Yeah, you don't mess with the Swifties, Dave.
All right.
If you're coming after us, that was Dave that said that. It wasn't me.
Yeah, no. I love the Swifties, except for the ultimate Swifty, Mr. Kelsey. All right, let's talk about the Chiefs though, for real. Nice game from Mahomes last week, and 3 pass touchdowns, 132.2 rating. Okay, we keep saying this though, Casey, as we watch the Chiefs play. 10 rushes for Mahomes, just 32 yards. He knows how to move the chains, but he's taking a ton of hits this year.
Yeah.
And we just don't want to see him take the wrong hit at the wrong time and get knocked out. Believe me, he's taking it upon himself. Pacheco with 51 yards, Kareem Hunt with 23. They're not getting quite the productivity out of the ground game, and I think that's getting them into those third and longer down and distances. They're not at 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2 like they normally have been over the last handful of years. And Mahomes is having to get it done, and he does not. He takes it upon himself to get it done. But of course, he can always find Kelsey. It seems like whenever they need Kelsey to move the chains, he does. They've gotten a lot of these younger guys or these pieces at the receiver with Smith Schuster, and Hollywood Brown. right? Xavier Worthy coming back looking better, and now they're getting Rashee Rice back. So he makes suddenly a pretty good, at what was rounding into shape as a pretty good receiving group into if, and they're going to have him on a little bit of a pitch count here to make sure he's okay. But he's going to go straight to the top as their premier receiver. So it totally opens up this offense. Another thing, though, is if this is a close game, which it probably won't be, but Harrison Butker has not been very good this year. So historically speaking, he's been excellent. Maybe ever since his graduation speech, he's paying the karmic gods back there. But he has missed a handful this year that he normally would make.
And we talked about these Chiefs. If last week was a must win for them, we were
Yeah,
on both sides of that. But even if it wasn't, they sure as hell played like it was. And you saw the
yeah.
result when they were focused and lasered in. They beat a really good Lions team. And now it would not shock me for the Chiefs to start doing Chief things.
No doubt, they are the favorite to win the division, even though they're a game back of both the Broncos and the Chargers. But hey, you know, but Vegas knows better, of course.
Yeah, always. All right, Dave, up next is the Carolina Panthers at the New York Jets. And the Panthers are 1-point favorites on the road.
Whew, I'll tell you what, Casey. Let's talk about this Panthers squad because in the beginning of the season they stumbled a bit, even though we were talking about the moral victories they had towards the end of last year, and they just didn't seem to translate. Well, they've got it kind of going on right now. Sitting at 3-3 is actually pretty dang impressive for this group. And what's more impressive is the running back
Your
Rico
mic's cutting
Dowdle.
out, Dave. I think we're going to end the
No,
show.
I'm
Sorry.
loud and clear here. Rico Dowdle, 183
Woo.
rushing yards, 56 through the air. We talked about it already. He was an absolute juggernaut last week, the absolute beast. And they're getting Hubbard back conceivably for this game. And Bryce Young with a running game, hey, he comes in at a quarterback rating of 114.8. So they've got some weapons there in the receiving group as well, So um, this team is getting better under the new coaching, and it would not surprise me if they continue to get better this week against this Jet squad. Let's talk about the Jets in the morning game. Seemed like they were about to Inspector Clouseau their way to a victory last week because they were doing everything to get in their own way, and somehow were right there to beat the Broncos, a very good football team. And right at the end, they found a way to lose that ball game in an, as usual, an excruciating and painful way for Jet fan. They're 0-6. They are the only winless team, and I don't know if they can expect to get a win even against a Panther team that's not necessarily a juggernaut. Although the Jets are favored. No, they're not. They
No,
were
they're not,
favored.
Dave.
It went the other way. Yeah,
Well,
the
Dave,
line switched.
when you're a Jet for life.
Well said, sir. All right, moving along. It is the New England Patriots at 4-2, going to the Tennessee Titans at 1-5 under new leadership. The Patriots on the road are favored by 7.
Yeah, and Vrabel's revenge. This guy wasn't good enough to coach the Titans, but the Titans shit canned their guy after just 24 games. But
Wow.
I want to talk about what the Patriots are doing right. And it's starting with Drake May, dude. Every week, this guy makes a handful of plays that you're just like, holy shit, this guy gets it, man. And he has Diggs, maybe a top line receiver. Maybe he was. Maybe he's not there yet, but it doesn't matter, man. May is passing it around. Boutte had a huge game last week, 5 for 93 and 2 touchdowns. Demario Douglas had a huge game, 371. Should have had another big touchdown on there. Distributing the ball, taking care of
Yeah.
it, moving out of the pocket when he has to. And I got to give it up to my guy, Ramondre Stevenson, blocking way the hell downfield on one of those passes last week. It was a deep play, and there he is trying to get his guy in the end zone. So
Nice.
this team is playing Vrabel football,
Yeah.
and they find themselves in first place in the AFC East. And then we have the Titans. As I mentioned earlier, they lost to the Raiders last week, 20-10. Obviously, you're going to have some growing pains with Cam Ward. They're lucky to have that one win, and it is a rudderless ship, but Cam's got to learn when to throw the ball away. 6 sacks last week. Can't have it. couple of those are on the pass rush. A couple is holding the ball too long.
Yeah.
But Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears combined for 65 yards rushing. That ain't going to get it done. Way too much pressure on your rookie quarterback. I
Yeah.
don't know that they can get the run game going this week against the Patriots. And I will bet you that Vrabel goes full on Dan Campbell in this game and tries to embarrass the crap out of these Titans in Tennessee.
Yeah, like I said before, what were they thinking firing Vrabel? Honestly.
Yeah,
Dude,
donk
and
move.
like you said, the thing about Vrabel is he gives the squad an identity. And
Yep.
that Patriot squad has got that, the toughness, the smart football.
Yeah, they're doing it, and it's impressive to watch. All right, Dave, up next we have the New York Giants at the Denver Broncos, and the Broncos are 6.5-point favorites in this one, but give me a little love on the Scataboo.
Yeah, gotta love the scataboo, dude. It's fun to say, first of all. I mean, who doesn't like to say scataboo?
Scataboo.
Um, but ever since this team put in Jackson Dart at the quarterback position. He just brought an excitement to the fan base, to the team. I think everybody's just was just like waiting for that. Let's just throw him in, right? And he got the W against my Chargers. They had a turnover fest the next week and took a loss on that one, but last week got a win as well, a surprising win against the Philadelphia Eagles there, and they didn't just eke out a win. It was a dominant win, 34-17. And the quarterback has played some good football, right? He's got a 104 quarterback rating. Scadaboo ran for 98 yards, right? Let's give him 100. What the heck? And when it comes down to it, Jackson Dart will just pull the ball down and run. He's got some wheels, baby. 13 rushes, 58 yards, and a rush touchdown for him. So he's got a couple of rushing touchdowns on the season. When he doesn't like what he sees, he doesn't hesitate to pull the ball down and get moving. And this is a really good Broncos defense that they're going up against. So we'll see how he can do. But they do have, like I said, some pretty good weapons there with Wan'Dale Robinson as well at the receiver position. Obviously, Neighbor's not there, but uh, if Dart, if they let him out and he escapes the pocket, he moves the chains, and that's kind of like their secret weapon right now. We'll see, and their defense, the Giants, very physical
Yeah.
front group. Bo Nix on the Broncos, very difficult to sack, but you can fluster him.
Yeah, and this will be Jackson Dart's first trip to Mile High.
Yeah.
Usually not too friendly to
Nope.
rookie quarterbacks there. But let's talk about these Broncos, Dave. It wasn't pretty last week across the pond, and we apologized ahead of the game for that. And
We
you
did.
mentioned the Jets classoed this game away, but if you look at it on the other side, the Broncos found a way to win a game when nothing was working right. They couldn't really run, they couldn't really pass, they just didn't make the big mistakes, and they
Yeah.
allowed that defense to keep them in the game. And if I'm Jackson Dart, I want to find out where the hell Nick Bonito is on every play and make sure I get that guy blocked up. It's going to be raucous there, and I feel like they're going to overwhelm Jackson Dart. On this Broncos offense, obviously Cortland Sutton is the main guy there, but Evan Ingram's starting to get healthier, sound a little bit and around there, and had 5 receptions and more targets, 6 targets. So as he's getting healthier, he's going to get back in the mix there. So the Broncos are a big play waiting to happen. You mentioned Nix, when he gets out of the pocket, he can create problems too.
He
So
sure can.
I don't know that the Scataboo magic and the Dart magic is going to work on the road, but with that giant front seven, man, they are tough. So anything is possible. But
No doubt
I think
about
the
it.
Broncos are going to win.
Yeah. Well, another thing the Broncos need to just get together with J.K. Dobbins running the football as well as R.J. Harvey. When those two guys are putting up decent rush yards and keeping them sort of the down and distance, favorable to Bo Nix, then the entire playbook is open. And they've got some really good receivers too, as well as Ingram, like you mentioned, to dish the ball out too.
Yeah.
All right, up next, it is the Indianapolis Colts at 5-1. They're heading to the Los Angeles Chargers here at 4-2 in one of the premier AFC battles of the weekend. Chargers at home favored by 1.5 may surprise some people based on the way the Colts have looked and the Chargers as well. But here we are, Chargers at home favored by 1.5.
Yeah, did anybody think that this was going to be a battle of two first place teams when they put this on the schedule?
I don't know about that.
No, they didn't, but that's what we got. And the Colts, um, they actually had their hands full last week against the Cardinals. We're even down late, but Dimebag Danny found a way to get it done, man. And he has just had a complete career resurgence there in Indy, and it's great to see. Dave, I always say you can't have enough good quarterbacks, and seeing Dimebag do his thing is pretty sweet. 22 of 30, 212, a touchdown. It did have an interception, but your guy may be the best first round draft pick in fantasy this year. The resurgence is Jonathan Taylor, man. 21 for 123, dude. That's almost 6 yards a carry. And it's the way he's doing it. He's like running dudes over, breaking tackles, and just such a dynamic running back. And the tight end, Warren, out of Penn State, dude. I love what this cat is doing. He had 6 for 63 and a touchdown. So lots of weapons there. Pierce, Downs, and Pittman. Danny's doing a great job of distribution. And then you turn around and hand it to 28. And they are going to have their hands full going on the road. But Dave, Colts sitting at the 1 seed right now. Go into LA and handle your business. And this is going to be a great test for them. And your Chargers had a grimy win last week. Our Chargers, I should say.
Yeah, you're back on.
Can they do they have anything left in the tank after taking it to the limit on the East Coast last week?
Well, and I do believe that the winner of this would be the top seed in the AFC if the Chargers were to get it, because they'd be tied with the Colts and have the tiebreaker there. Last week you mentioned a grimy win versus the Dolphins. Justin Herbert was absolutely awesome towards the end of that football game. The Chargers were terrible in the red zone, kicking lots of field goals, 5 field goals in the red zone.
We were talking about it during the game. You're like, crap, another field goal,
I can't believe it. We're kicking field goal. We are actually the worst red zone team in the league currently right now. That has to be rectified, or this is a lost cause here. You don't get down to the 5-yard line and kick field goal after field goal, right? So the Chargers eked out that win with a big play out of Herbert and Lab McConkey that set up the kicker, Dicker, to take the game there. But when you look at this, the Chargers gave up a crap load of yards to the running back Achane last week, and now they're getting a better running game, a better running team in the Colts. That has got to be job number 1, is to not get run over by Jonathan Taylor and these guys. If they get beat by Pierce and Downs and stuff, the receiving group, that'll be okay, as long as they're not just plowed over. Chargers like to run with a light box in front and play coverage. I don't know if they can go into this game with that as their game plan. That lost them the game against the Giants, to be honest with you. But when you look at this game, Kamani Vidal from last week, he's technically he wasn't even on the team. He was on the practice squad. But with the running backs being injured, the top 2, Vidal was called into action. Freaking great game from Kamani Vidal, 124 rush yards and an additional 14 yards through the air. Vidal was really exciting to watch. That was a bad run defense, though, and this Colts defense is a lot better defensively than the Dolphins were, where he got it going there. Another big game for the Chargers was Rondé Gadsden, rookie tight end, who had a fumble earlier, but then came back with 7 receptions in all for 68 yards. The Chargers have got lots of weapons. They didn't have Johnson. Johnston last week. He had a hammy. He's looking to go. They could get a ton of guys back. They might be able to get Joe Alt back. They might be able to get Khalil Mack back. So last week they were on their 5th and 6th offensive tackles for the season. So top 4 offensive tackles out. So if they can get some of those reinforcements back, there'll be a lot better battle here. But again, Vegas has them as 1.5 favorites in this one. So We'll see.
Yeah. Oh, and the Chargers are going to debut that new all yellow
Ooh, that's right.
uniform. It looks dope for uni nerds like us. We can
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Apparently the kids love it. So
The
we'll
kiddies
see.
love it. Yeah.
They
Sell
love
those
that shit.
jerseys in the pro shop.
That's what they want. They're moving the product there. All right,
Uh,
Casey. Oh,
I
you got
got
it?
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got this.
Okay.
Believe that, dude. It is the
Okay.
Washington Commandos at my Dallas Cowboys, and the Durs are 1-point favorites in this one. Dan
Hmm.
Quinn bringing the Durs back to Dallas.
Yeah. Well, maybe with a little vengeance on his mind, he's got something for Jera. Um, let's talk last week about the disappointing outcome for this Washington
I
Commanders
wasn't
squad.
disappointed.
Right. For Commanders fans,
Oh,
Casey,
okay,
not for
gotcha.
Bears fans or you. Right. As they lost by 1 point late to the Chicago Bears in that one, sort of let one get away. Um, and, you know, ultimately, um, it ends up being a pretty disappointing loss. Jaden Daniels, um, 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. Krosky Merritt, just 61 yards, but Jaden Daniels, 52 yards of his own. Um, this Commanders team has got to be kicking themselves after that performance and to come away short there. They got plenty of dudes to distribute the ball to. Obviously, they got to get that ground game going against the Cowboys. Cowboys gave up a ton of yards on the ground to the Carolina Panthers last week. That's got to be the blueprint right there that this Washington team is going to roll in there with Krosky Merritt and company, McNichols, whoever it is, Debo. They're going to try and ram it down you guys' throats and say, hey, if you can't fix what was broken last week, we're going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and hopefully the Cowboys can do that. You mentioned it. Rico Dowdle getting over 6 yards a carry last week.
Oof.
The good news is that Dan Quinn defense gave up 7.7 yards a carry to DeAndre Swift. So maybe that means the Cowboys can get it going with Javonte Williams coming off his worst game of the season, only 13 carries, 29 yards, starting to mix some of those hurt linemen came back in that game, and maybe that was a little bit off. They were
Yeah.
overwhelmed by that Carolina front and just couldn't get the run game going at all. Should have the big rookie right tackle back in this one. BB's probably Booker is who I was referring to. BB's probably still another week away, but now you have at least 4 of your 5 offensive line starters back for this one, which is good news. Also, maybe a little good news. It looks like CD Lamb might be back for this one, and maybe Cavante Turpin as well. That would
Wow.
really help. But right now, George Pickens is next level, dude. 9 for 168 and a receiving touchdown. I think when the Cowboys could not run the football, they should have gone more pass heavy in this game because the run wasn't working. And that last drive they had started off with a screen pass -5 yards, another screen pass for -7,
Jeez.
and they punted and never got the ball back. This defense has been absolutely terrible. The best offense in the league, the worst defense in the league, and
Yep.
Dak is going to have to play perfect to keep them going. There are reinforcements hopefully coming for this defense, but they got to figure it out. But you can't keep living like that. But if they can get a little healthier and maybe bring in a couple, you know, players from other teams, maybe is there a Jeffrey Simmons that the Titans are going to punt on since they're so far back to get some more draft picks. Maybe that's
Jera has said
something.
something about that. You guys are in position to make some moves if you need to, if you want to.
You know, when it's just a little off, sometimes it looks really bad. But if you could get a more couple quality players in there, that makes the guys that maybe don't have the quality look a little bit better. But I still don't know why Bland was so far off on that 4th down last week. And
Yeah.
K9 is just not getting it done there. So need help at linebacker, need help up front. But this is a pride game. Rico Dowdle last week told us to buckle up. And you know what? We didn't buckle up and paid the price for it. Maybe they can figure it out this week. They're going to have to because, Dave, as bad as it's been, as terrible as that defensive is, you have a special offense here.
Yeah.
Commandos 3-3, Cowboys 2-3-1. If somehow the boys can find a way to win this, guess who's now in second place in the division? The Cowboys at 3-3-1. So can you get it going just enough on defense it would be a shame to waste such a prolific offense the way
Yep.
this thing is going. So hopefully they can figure some shit out because it's tough to watch that defense, bro. Oh my god, it's killing me.
Whew. Okay, moving on. It's the Green Bay Packers at 3-1-1, and they are going to Arizona to play the Cardinals. They're sitting at 2-4, and the Pack on the road are favored by 6.5 in this one. Casey, talk about those Green Bay Packers and your guy, Micah Parsons.
Yeah, the Bengals played them pretty tough last week, and then ultimately Green Bay had enough to get the job done there. Um, they had this guy, Josh Jacobs. I don't know if you've heard about him, but he runs
Pretty
like a
good.
friggin' tank, dude. 18 for 93, 2 TDs last week, 5.2 per. And when he's running like that, it really helps Jordan Love. But Jordan Love's got to clean his stuff up too. Is not playing at the MVP level that everybody had said he was going to be going into this season, but he is still playing pretty good football. Matthew Golden starting to emerge a little bit, had 5 targets last week and 3
Big
grabs
time.
for 86 yards, but Love is doing his best when he's distributing to everybody. Tucker Kraft, an emerging star at tight end here, but the defense, Noah Green Bay's finding out a lot that Michael Parsons never gets a holding call against him. It's unbelievable. And it's funny in the Twitterverse, you're seeing a lot of that going down. He's like, oh, he's being held. Yeah, that was us every game. He doesn't get called, but this is a very talented Green Bay team, and they
Mm-hmm.
should be able to go to Arizona and handle the Cardinals team that's probably still without Kyler Murray and on
Yeah.
their third and fourth string running backs, and maybe no Marvin Harrison Jr. in this one either.
Yeah, I know. And they did. They're at 2-4. It doesn't look very good. They threw away that one game though, with the late
With
fumble
the
there,
Titans.
and
Ugh.
it seems like they should be 3-3 to me, honestly, which isn't that much difference, but it is a psychologically when we just look at it, it's a big difference there. But last week, of course, you mentioned.
I was going to say, especially in that division where you're already looking up at the Seahawks, the
Oh
Rams,
yeah, it's
and
a
the
very
Niners.
tough division. There, all the other ones are 4-2. You're sitting there 2-4. Crap, if you're 3-3, you're right there. You're right on the heels. Last week it was Brissett though. Freaking great game from Brissett.
Mhm.
320 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, just one pick there. Um, but he was slinging it. They didn't have a great running game. They're down the top 2 backs there, so they got Carter there and Knight, yeah, each for 34 yards, and then Brissett with 19 and DeMarcado after that, trying to get himself out of the doghouse there. But with Jones and McBride, the tight end, really, they've got some decent weapons, and as well as Wilson there. Even if Marvin Harrison can't go, we'll see about that. But yeah, a lot of question marks there, obviously at premier positions for this Cardinals on offense. Um, yeah, it's going to be a tough go of it having this Packers team come in, and we'll see what we got.
All right, Dave. Sunday night football, baby. The Dirty Birds, the Atlanta Falcons at San Francisco, and the Niners are 2-point favorites in this one. Falcons coming off a signature win on Monday Night Football, dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did those Vegas odds makers see the Falcons game the other night? Because they looked really good. And Bijan Robinson, man, he is such an
Oh,
explosive dude. Very, very exciting. If you don't come to play, man, that guy's gonna just right around the corner, and he is gone if you give him the space. Penix still kind of a little bit finding his way, I think, in this league. Um, hit and miss a teeny bit there, but with Bijan running for 170, you just have to just be smart about the football if you're Penix and protect the football. Don't take sacks. A throwaway is a good play, and Tyler Algier is also decent. He only had 32 yards last week because Bijan was ridiculous
yeah.
at 170 yards. Drake London had a brilliant game too, 158 yards receiving and a touchdown for Drake London. So these guys have got some really good weapons. Bijan with the 68 yards receiving too to go with his. So I mean, ridiculous numbers for Robinson. San Francisco is obviously going to be gearing up to stop Bijan Robinson and make Michael Penix Jr. beat them through the air. We'll see if they can do it on defense.
Yeah, last week I was going up against Drake London in my PPR league and going in the game like, oh, as long as London doesn't have 40 points, I should be good. And dude,
Oh,
he was one toe away from getting that second touchdown and getting 40 in the first half. So Falcons are riding high coming across to the West Coast there. Look, good and bad news for the Niners. I'm gonna do the bad news first. Fred Warner with the ankle injury,
uh,
done for the
yeah,
year. This is one of my favorite players, and I hate the 49ers, but I love the way Fred Warner plays. He will definitely be missed. Can they pull up the slack without him? I don't know. He's been the leader for this defense for so long. And you mentioned they got to try to slow down Bijan, and now your best tackler's out of there. It's going to be tough
that's
sledding for
brutal.
those Niners. Good news is they're probably going to have Brock Purdy back for this one. Mac Jones had been playing great, but you give Brock Purdy all this money, you want to see him out there. He's close. Also, George Kittle returns to practice this week. I don't know if he's going to get out there for Sunday, but he's getting back to the mix. We talked about how banged up this Niners team has been all
Yeah,
year long. They're 4-2 with those injuries. If they
right.
start getting healthy now, man, they are going to be a major contender. Already got a piece of first place in the West. They have bigger goals than that. They are hosting the Super Bowl in their stadium this year. Could they represent it? I
Could
don't
it
know. It
be?
starts with beating an upstart Falcons team at home Sunday Night Football. Getting healthy, good stuff's happening for them. They just need to keep it going.
All righty, Casey. Monday night football. And we have a double header. This one, at least, they didn't put them on basically at the same time or an hour apart or whatever that crap is. Sure, it's going against some baseball, and that may be the motivation for double headering this thing so that there's just wall to wall football going on that can distract people away from the baseball. But we'll get things started here on Monday Night Football with the early game at 4 o'clock West Coast time. Um, this is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Detroit Lions in a really good football game. The Bucks are 5-1. Lions sitting at 4-2. Lions at home, coming off that loss last week, are 4.5 point favorites in this one.
Yeah, dude. And these Bucks, I was just talking about the Niners. These Bucks kicked the crap out of the Niners last week. You know why? Because they have Baker freaking Mayfield, dude. And if you don't love the way this guy
MVP.
plays, you are a dumbass. He is so fun to watch. Had that
Yeah.
3rd and 14 last week, scrambled for it, broke about 3 or 4 tackles, got the big first down, mugged for it afterwards. And I know I'm a Baker homer because he's a Sooner, but dude, I love the way this cat plays, and he did it last week. No Mike Evans. He did it last week. No Chris Godwin. No Bucky Irving. And he finds a
No
way to get
problem.
it done, man. It
Yeah.
just didn't matter. Johnson with the big touchdown last week, connecting with Sterling Shepard. Abuka leaves with the hurt hamstring. I'm not sure what his deal is. Hopefully he can get back, but with the hammy, you just don't know. But this is a critical game for position in the NFC moving forward. Godwin and Bucky Irving are not going to be in this game, so it'd be nice if they could get Abuka back, but you can't rush it, especially with these hammies. But the way Baker's playing, it doesn't matter who the hell's out there. But they went to Detroit and got curb stomped. I think it was last year, the year before. So this is an important game. But dude, Baker is always on a revenge tour. So
Yeah, he
I
is.
wouldn't put anything past this guy.
No.
Plays with the chip on his shoulder. This Bucks squad is really good. They're deep. They're good on defense. And Baker's playing lights out. And they're going into the den with a hungry Lions team coming off. You said a brutal loss the week before.
Yeah.
They're going to have something to say about it.
Yeah, that was an angry Lions squad at the end of that football game, as we saw when the teams were lining up to congratulate each other, if you want to say it that way. But Goff did have 2 touchdowns and 200 yards, a really 118.8 quarterback rating, but a really modest night for him. He's always got the great quarterback rating because he's very accurate. They throw a lot of timing routes and stuff. But taking the initial touchdown where he received the touchdown and was able to score there with that, taking that off, that sort of set the tone, I think, for that game to be a frustrating game for this Lions
Mm-hmm.
squad against the Chiefs last week. There, they didn't get a lot going between Gibbs and Montgomery, less than 100 yards there. So that's just not their style. They want to be physical. They want to win in the trenches there. And I think they didn't necessarily establish that ground game like they wanted to. Nice performances, with Laporta and St. Brown and Williams, all pretty good, but wasn't enough to beat the Chiefs and the refs. So they're sitting at home this week, and they've got a Buccaneers squad coming. And you said it, this is MVP caliber performance this year so far from Baker Mayfield. Um, they know the challenge is real, and if they drop this one, they're sitting at 4-3, and they're way behind the Buccaneers in terms of the bigger picture in the NFC. So this is a big game.
It is going to be good. And then the nightcap, Dave, it is the Houston Texans at the Seattle Seahawks, and the Seahawks are favored by 2.5.
Yeah, and this is another good game. The Seahawks obviously have been playing some great football with Darnold there. You'll get into that, but let's talk Houston Texans here. They were on the bye last week. Probably needed the bye at that point in time, but when one good thing is they played the Ravens before the bye and they absolutely spanked them 44-10. So they've been able to hang around thinking about that good stuff. Sitting there at 2-3 is not a good feeling. But knowing for that whole 2 weeks that if you can play like that against the Ravens, then you can beat any team, right? And so they've got to hopefully get themselves motivated. This is a team that we kind of penciled into the playoffs here, and their season hasn't started off the way they wanted. And this is a tough trip on the road to go to Seattle and play Mike McDonald's defense. I'll let you get into that yourself in a minute. But CJ Stroud with a nice performance last week. 4 touchdown passes, 244 yards, and they didn't have a ton on the ground between Marks and Chubb, less than 100 yards, but Stroud ran the ball a handful of times. Well, one time it looks like here for 30 yards, but they got to take advantage of that momentum and the week off to get themselves ready to go into Seattle. And win or lose, they got to play a tough game to show that they're worthy of being a playoff caliber team, because the Seahawks look like they are.
Yeah, and looking up at the 5-1 Colts and the 4-2 Jags,
That's a long way up.
that is a long way off, man. And they got a lot of work to do, but so did these Seattle Seahawks. But one of the most impressive wins, going across country and beating a good Jacksonville team on the road. And it was really just Sam Darnold, because between Charbonnet and Walker, only 58 rushing yards.
Wow.
Sam Darnold has had a couple of mistakes. Otherwise, this team would be sitting at 6-0. And Jackson Smith and Jigba, I know it's a broken record because we talk about this guy every
We
week, but
do.
this guy, he might be the best receiver in the NFL. 8 for 162 and a touchdown. Just so strong, runs great routes. And I love his game. Cooper Kupp getting a little more involved there in the tight end
Yeah.
corner. So lots of weapons, and Sam Darnold's playing pretty good football, but that defense is coming back too, because you don't know me, but I'm your new coach. McDonald, dude. He took
Yeah.
whatever good stuff that the Ravens had at defense and he brought it all to Seattle. So he
Sure
is
did.
building this team, and Darnold's kind of put them ahead of the pace there. So this is a hugely important game. Seattle could be living off of the Mariners and going to the World Series by the time this game happens on Monday night. The 12s are already crazy. If you put the M's in the World Series, Seattle is going to be going freaking nuts, dude. This is a huge game, and I'm excited to see what happens, dude. Football is so good.
Yeah.
Even with the M's maybe going to the World Series,
Yeah,
football is good.
I'll have the baseball on the other TV. I'm not going to deny that, but this will be center screen here, and I am looking forward to seeing what Sam Darnold can continue to do now that he's really gotten some good coaching and he's developed into a confident young quarterback.
Speaking of World Series, real quick, I know we're a football show. Got the pre-sale code for my Dodgers World Series tickets. The shittiest seats, the farthest away that you could be in the stadium, $900.
Woo! So you
I'll be
went right for it.
yeah, I'll be watching at home.
Like so many others of us, right? All
Rude.
right. So many ways you can check out the Football Dudes. TrendZone available for subscription. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Instagram and Facebook. Follow us on X at Football Dudes LA. Make sure you tag us across all social media platforms.
Or just go to footballdudes.com. It's all there for you. That is going to do it for this episode of the Trend Zone. We're not the suits that talk football. We're the dudes that know football. For Casey, I am Dave, and we are out of here.